okay, Miss Fowles?
Welcome to Creative Tens. There are nights when all we want to do is curl up in bed and watch a horror movie. We all love doing that, but what makes a scary movie scarier is knowing that it is based on a true story. Here are top 10 horror movies based on true incidents that you absolutely need to see.
Number 10. Ravenous. We all enjoy a good meal, but what if you had to eat human meat for your next meal? Yes, this is one of the most underrated movies on cannibalism, which will spook you like nothing else can. Because you are what you eat, quite literally. Of course, a vampire is simply a cannibal with good table manners, and Ravenous is a darkly atmospheric film about an epidemic of flesh eating. Number 9. Deranged. Ever loved someone so much that you kept their body even after their death? This 1974 movie is exactly about that. It is inspired by the life of America's most notorious serial killer, Ed Gein. The title is, however, misleading since Ed Gein never experimented with necrophilia. Although a necrophile is also defined as an obsessive fascination with death and corpses. Ezra Cobb lives with his mother in an unidentified region of the Midwest. His mother, a religious fanatic, has indoctrinated him since childhood to hate women. Upon her death, Ezra digs her up again, believing that she is still alive. Number 8. The Conjuring. In 1970, paranormal investigators and demonologists Lorraine and Ed Warren are summoned to the home of Carolyn and Roger Perron. The Perrons and their 5 daughters have recently moved into a secluded farmhouse, where a supernatural presence has made itself known. Though the manifestations are relatively benign at first, events soon escalate in horrifying fashion, especially after the Warrens discover the house's macabre history. During the first day, the family moves in smoothly except for the dog, who refuses to come into the house. That night, the children play a game called hide and clap. While playing, one of the daughters finds the boarded-up entrance to a cellar. Story is more interesting when you see this movie. Number 7. The Girl Next Door. Loosely based on the true life events surrounding the torture Sylvia Likens faced during her stay with her aunt and her death. This movie is an adaptation Jack Ketchum's 1989 novel of the same name. The Girl Next Door follows the unspeakable torture and abuses committed on a teenage girl in the care of her aunt and the boys who witness and fail to report the crime, which is based on the true story of Sylvia Likens. Number 6. Psycho. Psycho is a 1960 American psychological thriller horror film directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Psycho is an Alfred Hitchcock-owned Blood and Soul. Psycho tells the story of Marion Crane, who steals $40,000 from her employer. She leaves her home in Phoenix, Arizona and ends up at the Bates Motel in Fairvale, California. The motel is run by mother-fixated Norman Bates.
She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Psycho is the mother of all modern horror suspense films. It single-handedly ushered in an era of inferior screen slashers with bloodletting and graphic. There have been various follow-ups of this movie. It is an absolute must-watch. Number 5. The Amityville Horror. The movie is based on the events that took place in 1975 at 112 Ocean Avenue, the new house of the Lutz family in Amityville. The Amityville Horror is a 2005 American horror film, directed by Andrew Douglas. It is a remake of the 1979 film of the same name, which itself was based on the novel of the same name by Jay Anson. which documents the alleged experiences of the Lutz family after they moved into a house on Long Island which had been the scene of a mass murder committed by Ronald DeFeo Jr., who murdered 6 members of his family there in 1974. This has been a very discussed case among paranormal researchers. Number 4. Child's Play. The script was based on a nurse who allegedly put a voodoo curse on author Robert Eugene Otto, which transformed one of his childhood dolls into a nighttime menace. We all have seen scary movies with possessed dolls, but knowing that the doll really existed is spooky. The film tells about a single widowed mother giving her son a good guy doll for his birthday, unaware that the doll is possessed by a serial killer's soul. Child's Play is a 1988 American supernatural slasher horror film directed by Tom Holland. The film is the first in the Chucky franchise, and is the first movie to feature the killer doll Chucky. Serial killer Charles Lee Ray, also nicknamed Chucky, and the Lakeshore Strangler, is a wanted fugitive and is on the run from the police in the streets of Chicago in November 1988. Number 3. A Nightmare on Elm Street. A Nightmare on Elm Street is a 2010 American slasher film directed by Samuel Bayer. Teenagers Nancy, Quentin, Chris, Jesse and Dean are all neighborhood friends who begin having the same dream of a horribly disfigured man, who wears a tattered sweater and a glove made of knives. The man, Freddy Krueger, terrorizes them in their dreams, and the only escape is to wake up. But when one of their number dies violently, the friends realize that what happens in the dream world is real, and the only way to stay alive is to stay awake. The makers of this movie were inspired by a group of Laotian refugees who had died in throes of a nightmare. The medical reports said there was nothing wrong with them physically. This story is awesome to watch with friends. Enjoy this movie.
Stop.
Number 2. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie is loosely based on America's famous serial killer Ed Gein, who had 9 human skin masks in his possession at the time of his arrest. When Sally hears that her grandfather's grave may have been vandalized, she and her paraplegic brother, Franklin, set out with their friends to investigate. After a detour to their family's old farmhouse, they discover a group of crazed, murderous outcasts living next door. As the group is attacked one by one by the chainsaw-wielding Leatherface, who wears a mask of human skin, the survivors must do everything they can to escape.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is another world.
And number 1 is The Exorcist, one of the most profitable horror movies ever made. This tale of an exorcism is based loosely on actual events. The Exorcist is based on a book, which is based on real life of a boy named Roland Doe, who was possessed by demons in 1949. When young Regan starts acting odd, levitating, speaking in tongues, her worried mother seeks medical help, only to hit a dead end. A local priest, however, thinks the girl may be seized by the devil. The priest makes a request to perform an exorcism, and the church sends in an expert to help with the difficult job. The exorcism was so scary that there have been books written on people who witnessed it. This story will give you goosebumps, all for real reasons.